Our last stop in West Virginia takes us to a Cafaro Mall just north of Clarksburg, the Meadowbrook Mall. Although it's fallen on hard times, like so many other malls, it still manages to put along on modest offerings for the community. Let's step inside and get a closer look. I don't know how long to Ohio or how long to get here particularly. From Ohio is about 2 or 3 hours.
Wow. This is a whole trip from North Carolina, right?
Yeah. And it took me like 5 or 6 hours just to get to Ohio.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you cover most of the malls in your area already.
Now, you need what Pat has to have. Pat has a stick. Those depend.
Wait a minute. Hold on, we'll get to the rest of the mall later. I need to go inside Target for a moment. You'll have to forgive me for impulsively going inside. I grew up with a Target bathed in colorful curly neon, and this was the first time in years finding anything of the sort again. I am lucky enough to still have a Target that boasts neon motifs, but it's more or less pinkish red targets all across the upper walls. I just wanted to take a moment, because I may never see anything like this ever again, unless we can get a throwback trend going. Anyway, now that we've seen the neon in the Target, let's go see the mall proper. And also, a shout out to Nick F. for joining us on this tour. Nick manages the Facebook group Layoffs and Liquidations, which I am a part of. And ultimately, his group, along others on the site, are the main reasons I still have any sort of presence on Facebook. Meadowbrook Mall got its start in 1982 when it was built up by the Kiva J. Kecht Company, whom was commissioned by the Cafaro Company. Original anchors likely consisted of Sears and J.C. Penney, though future original anchors could not be sourced. Over time, the mall would see Elder-Beerman, Target, and a Cinemark theater, alongside an Old Navy and Marshalls, come into the picture. Unfortunately, that is all I have in the way of notes on this mall. History is very difficult to find on this mall, and this is, again, unfortunately, a recurring issue for half of West Virginia's malls. Some malls, like the Grand Central Mall, I've been able to cobble something together with newspaper archives, but for the most part, West Virginia is a bit of a black hole, even in that regard. Go figure that you have to go to Pennsylvania newspapers to find anything on malls in West Virginia. However, one detail that I can point out is that Cafaro has commissioned the construction of this mall and still owns it to this day. Not much has changed besides middle management. So, what do I think about this mall? Well, I do find it okay. Yeah, the current architecture and design is not my favorite, but I don't know. You can still see a diverse number of storefronts that haven't yet been walled off, and you have plenty of places to sit down and relax, even post-lockdown. Also, this mall doesn't leave me hating life nearly as much as a different mall that's in Ohio. So it can't be all that bad if I don't hate myself at the end of the visit. And on top of that, you have a pizza place literally called Pizza Place. And I've tried it. The pizza there is worth a try, so the mall has that going for it as well. Nick did tell me that security was rather tight in this mall. Although, given I was able to get what I need out of this mall, I guess it's not tight enough. But that aside, it's not a bad mall. It still has some decent offerings for Clarksburg and beyond, and you still have some worthwhile anchors to speak of, like JCPenney or Target. For now, at least. You even have Joann, Old Navy, and Marshalls, as I mentioned earlier, serving as junior anchors. One aspect that tends to get lost with a hobby is having some people to chat with while touring the mall. I am used to working alone, and for a long time it was not by choice, since some people will try to push me along too fast, or the two of us draw too much unwanted attention, and the schedules rarely align properly for the two of us to work well with. Story of me and Ace's adventures, really. But this was one of the rare instances where my schedule actually lined up with Nick's, and we were able to hang out for a bit at the mall. And man, does time fly when we chatted up. You might be able to hear it faintly in the background noise. Nick tends to frequent a fair number of shopping malls, live, struggling, and dead, in the southwest Pennsylvania region, and he can tell you a fair deal about what goes on at most of these malls. I can't guarantee for all malls, but if you have a question about, say, any of the malls in northern West Virginia or southwest Pennsylvania, check in at Layoffs and Liquidations and he'll likely have an answer for you.
I just don't know what Uniontown's plan is. I mean, like, we'll fight. It's hard to fight, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Now, back to the mall itself. Yeah, it's still got some options, but those empty anchors are not going to bode well for this mall's long-term survival. Something has to be done with them, which is where the discussion comes in. What should be done with those empty anchor spaces? Should new department stores be attracted? Should we look towards alternative uses like recreational, industrial, or even residential? What would be a good fit for the Clarksburg Metro in West Virginia? These are all the questions that we should be considering when trying to rehabilitate this mall. One of the more extreme ideas I have heard discussed, and have even seen implemented, would be small or large-scale arenas for airsoft and paintball. These large buildings certainly have the space for such activities or events. A YouTuber I know of in Vermont has proposed that such a thing should be done to their local mall in Rutland. Convert it into a paintball arena, set up different spots for cover, and even platforms for objectives. Of course, things would get pretty messy rather quickly, especially with paintball, but it would still be a unique idea to implement, and it would also make your mall stand out. Just imagine a game of capture the flag with paintball guns in an old Sears building. You just need someone who is willing to make that aspiration into reality. There's always like two security guards at the food court chatting. One of them, I swear, looked like a cousin of Phil Swift. And yes, this is the final mall in West Virginia for us. We have basically seen everything that this state has to offer, from the oddity near Bluefield to the mega mall in Charleston. There used to be more malls, like with most states, but some got away from us very early on, like the Kanawha Mall and the St. Albans Mall. What I would give for a time machine, really. But nonetheless, I covered all I could and was able to see all of what West Virginia had to offer at this time. Unless I do a revisit for some properties, or find a micro mall in a podunk town, I really only go to West Virginia for vacationing nowadays. But nonetheless, it is a lovely feeling to achieve such a milestone, and I want to thank you for joining me for it. And we are just about to wind down for the Meadowbrook Mall here in West Virginia. I would like to thank you for joining me on another mall walk. With West Virginia conquered, it's time to look ahead into the great beyond. But before we go, what did you think about the Meadowbrook Mall? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Or were you somewhere in the middle like me? Do comment down below. And of course, a special thanks to Nick F. for joining me for this one. If you can stomach Facebook, why not check in at the group Layoffs and Liquidations? Thanks for having me, Bridgeport. And thanks for having me, West Virginia. And until next time, this is Doomie Grunt wishing you, the Meadowbrook Mall, and West Virginia as a whole, farewell, and good luck in this mad world.
Yeah. Although,